Thank you very much. My name is Tom Grotenwohl. I am from Kansas City, but now I live just north of Wakefield in Gogebic County. And it's a big honor to be here today. I actually grew up going to a Unitarian Universalist church in Kansas City with my mother and grandmother. So it's good to be amongst kindred spirits. The website I started is protecttheporkies.com. It was just a means to share information about a project happening in a very sparsely populated area. I found that it was very difficult to access information about the proposed Copperwood mine. And so the service I wanted to provide is just to make the information available to folks and let people make up their own minds on whether or not they think this is a good idea. So I'm going to go through some slides pretty quickly, but you can watch the replay if you need to revisit some of this information. Let's take a look at Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park. On the left here, we see old growth eastern hemlocks. The Porkies are the largest mixed coniferous deciduous old growth forest in the Midwest, and they contain the largest population of old growth eastern hemlocks remaining in the country. And on the right is the majestic Presque Isle River. The Porkies, as we call them, were actually ranked as the most beautiful state park in the country in 2022. This was not just one person's opinion. It was an analysis of Yelp and TripAdvisor reviews. So this is one of the crowning jewels of Michigan. Next, we have the North Country Trail, which is the longest of all national hiking trails. Stretches 4,800 miles from North Dakota to Vermont, and it passes through the Ottawa National Forest in our neck of the woods. And of course, you're all familiar with Lake Superior, the largest freshwater sea on Earth, containing 10% of the world's surface fresh water. So when we look at this area between the Presque Isle scenic area of the Porcupine Mountains, between the North Country Trail, Lake Superior, and also Black River Harbor, another spectacular area to the west, most folks would ask, why isn't this area protected? In order to maintain the vibrancy and vitality of these habitats, not just as a place to go and take a quick selfie, right, but as a place where wildlife and the fauna and flora are all thriving, we need to reduce habitat fragmentation and massive development projects in this region. Instead, the exact opposite is being proposed. So this is a map of Highland copper and the Copperwood mineral rights. You see how they actually overlap with the state park surface rights. This violet area is the Highland mineral rights, and this dark green area is the Porcupine Mountain State Park surface rights. We see the proximity of Black River Harbor also. This bright green area here, section 5, is actually where the mining company plans to extract copper from underneath state park property. And you see the proximity to the Presque Isle River. They are not currently permitted to do this, but they have expressed the interest in seeking these permits in the later stages of mining. There is a well-known phenomenon called permit creep, where first you are permitted to mine a few feet into the state park, and then slowly that becomes more, hundreds of feet, thousands of feet. Their mineral deposit actually goes on the other side of the Presque Isle River, even under the Presque Isle campground. So it's important that we draw a line in the sand. Here's what the mining infrastructure looks like in proximity to the North Country Trail. This tailings disposal facility, which we will return to, is less than 500 feet from the trail. Other new scenic landmarks would be explosives plants, processing plants, ore stockpiles, and sewage lagoons, as well as streams which have been rerouted. Finally, moving on to Lake Superior. This is an ore grade map, which shows the copper concentration. And if you were to look at this, ask yourself, where is the highest quality copper? It's clearly that dark red area closest to the lake. However, when you look at the ore grades, that dark red area, you'd think, dark red signifies 90%, 95%, or it's actually 2%. So 2% of this area would be copper coming out of the ground, and 98% would be waste. But in proportion to the even lower grade copper, this is actually the highest quality. So because the best copper is so close to the lake, the mine would actually be permitted to extract up to 100 feet from the lakeshore, but they've even expressed interest in mining underneath the lake once they get the permits. So as we said, the ore grade in the high ore grade copper is 2%, but the average ore grade is only 1.45%. So just to be clear, the 95% pure native copper, which fueled the copper rush of the 19th and 20th centuries, and going back thousands of years through the Native American copper miners, all of that native copper is gone. Copperwood's ore grade is 1.45%, so nearly 99% of what comes out of the ground is not copper, but sulfide-bearing heavy metal-laden waste to be stored on site forever. This is what their tailings disposal facility or waste facility looks like. They've rerouted these streams in order to make room for that facility. This is what the mine site looked like last autumn. So these streams have been rerouted. That waste facility would contain over 30 million tons of waste. It would actually be the closest metallic sulfide waste facility to Lake Superior in history. Lake Superior is about 2 miles downhill. So if there was a rupture or slow seepage from this facility, it would follow gravity and reach the lake. Many of the heavy metals found in sulfide mine tailings are on the World Health Organization's top 10 list for chemicals of public health concern. We're talking about arsenic, cadmium, lead, and mercury. These toxins bioaccumulate in the environment, so they are absorbed into plankton. Fish eat the plankton, the big fish eat the little ones, the human eats the big fish, and the toxicity accumulates to higher concentrations in every step of the way. All copper sulfide mines contaminate, period. This is not the exception, this is the rule. There was a 2012 study by Earthworks examining the copper mines responsible for 89% of US production. 13 out of 14 mines resulted in significant water quality impacts, and all of the mines experienced pipeline spills or accidental releases. To quote the Wisconsin Sierra Club, these are some of the largest companies in the world working under American regulations, yet they all failed. So do we want such an operation in unprecedented proximity to Lake Superior? We also have to talk about the more catastrophic possibility of that waste facility actually rupturing. So this was a study done in 2015, which found that despite advances in technology, serious dam failures are actually increasing in frequency. Risk potential has increased by a factor of 20 every third century. And this was attributed precisely to the unwieldy quantity of waste, which is created by these marginal low ore grade mines like Copperwood. So what exactly does it look like when a tailings dam bursts? This was the 2019 Brumadinho tailings dam rupture in Brazil, which killed 272 people. And the dam ruptured 3 years after they had stopped storing waste there. So why does this say content paid for by Pure Michigan? We're about to get there. So on March 26th, the Michigan Strategic Fund, which is a subsidiary of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, voted to approve an award of $55 million in your taxpayer dollars to Highland Copper, an inexperienced foreign company. Quite ironically, the MEDC is the organization responsible for the Pure Michigan branding campaign, which promotes Michigan's beautiful areas and outdoor recreation opportunities. However, whereas the original grant was for $55 million with no strings attached, due to our campaign and our movement's opposition, in which hundreds of comments were submitted, both spoken at the meeting and written via email, the grant has been adapted, and now the company must raise $150 million on their own 2 feet before receiving even a single copper penny. So that's quite a hurdle for a small company which has shown really no great skill in fundraising over the past 10 years. The deadline to do so is December 31st, 2025. As a result, the company has pushed the construction date back from this year to next year. This is in keeping with their tradition of pushing the start date back again and again and again. And we hopefully will see this continue. However, the bad news is whether or not this was the state's intention, the grant approval is being construed as an official Michigan endorsement by the mining company. So they are using this as a way to try to receive more investment from private investors, as a way to receive bank loans and grants on the federal level. So that's why the Copperwood mine, although it's been proposed for over a decade, you've just seen that they've rerouted streams, they've clear-cutted forests, and now they have a Michigan endorsement. We are closer than ever to seeing Copperwood become reality. So the mining property is full of no trespassing signs. However, many of the influences of mining trespass all the time. For example, this shows a study of ancient Roman lead and silver mines, how the lead pollution traveled 2,800 miles to Greenland. And so today we can actually study Greenland ice cores, and based on the lead content, they can map the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. So contamination travels. It also travels across time. This is the site of Wadi Fainan in Jordan, an ancient copper mine. 2,000 years later, the pollution is just as harmful. The growth of plants continues to be stunted. Reproductive systems are severely damaged. The goats in the region are prized because their stomachs are parasite-free, but this is almost certainly because their guts are poisonous through being contaminated with mineral pollutants. So if we see that the influences of a mine travel across time and space, we have to think about the effects on the surrounding area, a crowning jewel of outdoor recreation. We can expect air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, light pollution, subterranean blasting, nonstop industrial traffic, and also ongoing development beyond the mine. None of this will be contained by private property borders. So on that last point, ongoing development beyond the mine, we should all be familiar with the phenomenon of shifting baseline syndrome. This is when the conditions of the natural environment gradually degrade over time, yet we falsely perceive less change because we do not know or fail to recall accurately how the environment looked like in the past. So even though the mine would only last for 10.7 years, we're talking about substantial changes that would have resounding impacts beyond that time frame, such as the development of so-called temporary employee housing in the area, which would not evaporate. Also, the construction of a 25-mile transmission line that would lay the groundwork for ongoing development right next to Black River Harbor, right next to the Presque Isle Scenic Area, Lake Superior, some of the last wild coastline. This is one of my chief concerns, but it's also one of the most difficult to communicate because of how slow the change can be over time. This is what shifting baseline syndrome looks like. Happens too slowly to perceive until suddenly someone asks, hey, didn't there used to be birds here? So the Michigan Strategic Fund approved this grant based on the premise that it will revitalize a blighted economy. However, the most comprehensive study ever done, which examined literally all of the quantitative findings available, found that in rural communities, mining actually had a negative economic impact 46% of the time and positive only 29% of the time. And most of those positive cases were from before 1983. The conclusion, there is surprisingly little evidence that mining will bring about economic good times, while there's a good deal of evidence for expecting just the opposite. Another study, more recently, shows that the economic benefits of mining typically trail off after just a few years. You see that in the beginning, there can be a spike in employment benefits or income benefits, but for many mines, within 2 or 3 or 5 years, we're already in the negatives due to the effect on the amenity economy and the outdoor recreation economy. The author of the study, James Stock, a Harvard economist and former advisor to President Obama, says that in 89% of cases, copper mining ends up being a negative for jobs and a negative for incomes. But most people would say, forget about it. It's going to create 380 direct mining jobs in this area, which is starving for job creation, right? So we can ignore almost all other arguments as long as we get people jobs. But let's take a look at those jobs. So this is the grant text from the Michigan Strategic Funds. And here's how they define a new job. On the evaluation date in 2029, a new job is defined as lasting for the previous 6 months. So not 6 years, not 10 years. A new job lasts for 6 months, and it's performed either by a Michigan resident or a non-resident who is employed by the company or a specialized employer. The fact that there's a separate category for non-residents suggests that'll be a pretty significant proportion of these jobs. A specialized employer is an organization providing workers with expertise in mining. So that's not going to go to your average person living in Wakefield or Bessemer. And then the grant text also states that the startup date of Copperwood is actually supposed to coincide with the closure of Eagle Mine in Marquette County. And so they are planning on retaining the talent pool of Eagle Mine. In other words, they want to scoop up specialized workers from another county. Is lateral job transfer the same as job creation? So in the end, when you do a cost benefit analysis, on one side, we've got short-term boom and bust jobs. We've got copper, which will be shipped out of country. And we have profit for foreign executives. On the other side, we have pure night skies, fish without mercury, the North Country Trail, the Porkies, Lake Superior, and the right of all of us to enjoy a moment of peace in nature. I think the scale very clearly tips in favor of what is far more scarcer than copper or any mineral, which is a moment of peace in pristine nature, not just for humans, but for the wildlife and for the flora and for the ecosystem itself. Where do we go from here? This is a graphic released by a mining industry company in 2020 showing the most significant challenges that mining companies face. Number one is the license to operate. This is what keeps these guys up at night is there social support for this project or not? Because if there's a massive movement against my mine, then there's a good chance investors are not going to want to give money to a project which they think could be stopped by resistance. So that's where we come in, is developing the opposition to Copperwood, making it larger on a local, national, and international level until nobody in their right mind would touch this project. So the company needs $391 million in initial capital. They currently have around $25 million in the bank. This is far from a done deal. What we've been doing is developing a petition, which you can find at change.org/protecttheporkies. We're almost at 37,000, which is close to the population of Houghton County. Maybe some folks in this room can help us pass that 37,000 signature threshold today. We've got some coverage in the largest newspaper in Wisconsin, as well as in the Daily Mail, an international tabloid in Great Britain. Ways people can help. We are a decentralized movement. ProtectThePorkies.com is just a website. We are the messenger. Once you receive the message, we really need folks to take their own initiative and see how they can help us. You can reach out to the media, reach out to advocacy groups. You can write a letter to the editor, to your local paper, sign and share the petition, share the website. You can certainly donate to the campaign, and you will find details on the website. You can print and distribute flyers from our outreach page. You can organize a table at local events. And most importantly, you can use your own creativity. Maybe there's something on this list, something that's not on this list that you can contribute. If you want more information, please go to our YouTube channel. Upcoming events are occurring. We're holding in-person meetings in multiple towns throughout the UP. We're going to be appearing at festivals and events this summer. I encourage everybody to join our mailing list at protecttheporkies.com, and you can reach out to us for any reason, protecttheporkies@gmail.com. Once again, this area, that copper is always going to be there. So the long-term goal is to find a way that other companies in the future, even once Highland Copper is defeated, how do we make sure that some of the last wild coastline is protected and that all of these ecosystems remain vibrant? I'd just like to finish by going through a list of some of the species of special concern that have been observed on the mine site or at the adjacent lake's shore. We'll go through these in silence. So we try to make these logical arguments available for people, how the mine would affect outdoor recreation, how it would affect the economy. But there are also a great many creatures who, although they have a voice, their voices are not heard by our nature deaf decision makers. And that's why it's important for us to speak up. So to follow along, please go to protecttheporkies.com, join the email list. And with that, we will end the presentation. Thank you so much for your time and for your consideration of this important topic.
Thanks, Tom. That was really informative. I had no idea they'd already started building that mine. Yeah, I agree, Ann. So thank you so much. We'll move on to Kathleen, and then we'll have time for question and answers from anyone. Okay, so Kathleen, are you going to share your screen?
Yep. Just making a section right now. Let's see. Just trying to size it properly. 1 second. I was afraid we'd have telecommunication disruptions today, with all our technologies dropping out of the sky with a solar storm or something. Can everyone see my slides now?
Looks great.
Okay. So my name is Kathleen, and I am speaking as a board member of Upper Peninsula Environmental Coalition, and I work with the Mining Action Group. So I like to say I'm a rabble rouser, but I'm also a hermit. So if you don't see me for long periods of time, that's the other side of being a rabble rouser, is going off grid and getting away from all these issues to protect the spirit, right? Here is a kind of overview map provided by Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, and it shows all of the threats around the Lake Superior watershed, with all of the new mining and mineral exploration happening. And I've just circled just the Western UP, what we're considering today, and in blue at the bottom. But as we can see, just paying attention to our own area is hard enough. The folks out in Minnesota are looking at the same kind of new mining resurgence. The folks in upper Wisconsin as well, new projects in northern Wisconsin. And then whether or not we manage to protect our environment and our resources here, we're going to see impacts to Lake Superior from the north side, all across Ontario as well. So we have to think of this as a watershed rather than just as folks living in the Western UP. I promised to talk today about 3 specific mining projects. So I have a few extras thrown in, but this is Tilden Mine, and our group has not historically dealt with iron mining projects. we formed, I came to the Mining Action Group from the Save the Wall GP, which formed in response to the Eagle Mine project. So dealing with sulfide mine contamination, the issues related to copper, nickel, platinum group elements, things that come with sulfides. And so the Tilden Mine project is a little out of the area that we normally address. But this year, Tilden Mine in the middle of Marquette County applied for an enormous expansion of their waste rock stockpile, and they wanted to push out one of their mountains of waste rock into wetlands between them, the mine, Tilden Mine, and the city of Ishpeming, into an area known as Ely Creek. And they had just a horrendous permit. The application was just one of the worst that I've ever read as a literature reader. It was just filled with errors and inaccuracies and omissions. And they didn't consider the environment of Ely Creek, except that this was a great spot to put more waste rock. There was no historical context. Ely Creek has beaver wetlands. So this is the more than human that we talk about in the land acknowledgements. This was studied in the 1850s by Henry Morgan, who came through Marquette County and drew them, photographed them, mapped them, hundreds of beaver complexes, which still exist today if they have not been mined out entirely on the Carp River and the Upper Escanaba. And there was no mention of it in hundreds and hundreds of pages of work that they did, including a cultural review for this area. You know, they hire companies that are not even based in the area to do a cultural literature review. And it just has like information taken from websites about the history of the area that's not even accurate. So no consideration for the historical context, no consideration for the creatures living there. The cumulative impacts to wildlife were stated as, quote, the threshold is not approached because wildlife species are adapting to localized impacts within the mine project area, apparently buffered by the extensive amount of quality wildlife habitat in the whole Keweenaw watershed. So, you know, they didn't do any biological study of birds or mammals. So it's sort of unbelievable that they came to this conclusion. They have an industrial footprint that covers 25 square miles across the middle of Marquette County, through which nothing can really travel except raptors. And they didn't acknowledge the presence of raptors, including right adjacent to the stockpile expansion. Already there's an eagle's nest directly adjacent to the current stockpile that they would push out completely into the wetlands, obliterating that nest site and all of the wetlands marked in red on this. And they didn't have a cumulative impact assessment done since the late 90s. They didn't consider any of the impacts from the adjacent Empire site, just the Tilden project. They didn't have any biological survey updates. They didn't know about the threatened and endangered species. Local neighbors had photographs of wolves using the area. There was no mention of wolves or eagles. Beaver was only mentioned in that they will, you know, obliterate beaver ponds, but just no history of the area. And because these are wetlands, the wetland impacts totaled roughly 80 acres. And under wetland law, Michigan is one of only 2 states in the country that have wetland programming under the state of Michigan for making permit decisions. And anything that's this large for impacts also has to be reviewed by the EPA and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And we worked very hard on this permit and commented extensively on the flaws and inadequacies. We reached out to landowners, adjacent neighbors that hadn't been consulted, and our comments got the attention of the feds as well as the state employees that were reviewing the permit. The EPA submitted a 10-page letter to the state of Michigan with objections to the permit. And we don't believe that the company can overcome the objections. One of the key objections is under wetland programming, the first thing you have to do is decide if this is not a wetland dependent project, you have to find other feasible alternatives to avoid it. Can you avoid it is the first question. And they could avoid it. They wanted to put all of their waste rock out here just because in their concept, this area is just perfect for receiving waste rock. But we came up with additional areas that they could use for waste rock that we feel are feasible alternatives. We came up with them, Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission came up with them, and there may have been others submitted as well, which is something that individual stakeholders and rabble-rousers reading environmental permits have the ability to do. If you have some technical skill and you can look at these things and you know the area, that is an option to help protect our wetlands. We're supposed to have a zero loss policy in Michigan and nationally for wetlands. The state of Michigan has already lost half of its wetlands since settlement time. So this was a really important and unusual one for us to take on, but I'm glad we did, and stay tuned for the results. So the next project is Lundin Mining in northern Marquette County. As you're probably all aware, they have Eagle Mine up there. You can see the Huron Mountains in the distance, kind of your view, you know, if you look across Keweenaw Bay, you can see those mountains as well. Sometimes on a clear night from Houghton, you can see Eagle Mine glowing up there in the distance because it's on the top of, you know, about 1,400 feet. So Lundin is now saying they want to extend the life of Eagle Mine. Mining commenced 10 years ago, and it was slated through 2027, and now it's been pushed back to 2029. So here's what they started with, the Eagle ore body. Kind of right in the middle, if you can see my cursor moving, this is about where Eagle Rock was, the sacred rock that they used as their mine portal. And then from there, they went over to Eagle Mine underground. This is all underground. And after extracting about half of Eagle Mine, then they declared that they had discovered the Eagle East deposit. The bottom of Eagle Mine is 1,000 feet down, and the bottom of this ramp that they had to build was another 1,000 plus. And then they did a twin ramp all the way across. This is miles of underground tunnels over to the Eagle East ore body. And so it really started as an eagle, but I like to say it's sort of become the octopus mine, where it has tentacles kind of going off across its site. And now they have discovered, so if I go back here, this is Eagle East, like, and the surface is way up here. Now they've discovered Keel deposit, which they knew about. It's kind of the same feeder system as Eagle East, but it's some high quality ore up here that they're going to go after. So now 3 ore bodies altogether. And as a result of the fact that they keep, you know, using their existing mine portal and their facility on the surface, they haven't changed their mining permits drastically. They have the same surface operation for the most part, but that isn't to say that their impacts haven't expanded over the time that they've been mining. Because this ore body here is much deeper and it's entirely within the brine layer of the rock. So the salts entrained in the rock is much, much higher, which is causing problems with their water treatment plant. They had to add more crystallizers to remove the salts from their waste, as well as problems at their mill where they're shipping all their waste rock. So, I mean, where they're shipping all their rock. And waste rock is accumulating. So here you have an example of what Tom very aptly said was the baseline shifting. In their 2019 annual report, they proudly mentioned that there were 17 nests active in the heron rookery, which was a big concern that everybody had raised at the beginning, that there's this heron rookery right next to the Humboldt Mill. And so now they quietly report that the entire rookery has been abandoned, and you know, up above, they say the Great Blue Heron Rookery seems to be robust and unaffected by mill operations. I mean, if you know what herons do, they fish in the bodies of water. Well, there's nothing protecting that body of water from herons. I'm not surprised between the mill activities and you know, the quality of the fishing there that the entire thing has been abandoned. But these details are not discussed in terms of, you know, now they are affected by mill operations. They quietly mention it and nobody notices. This is what the mill pit lake looks like. The mill is right down here at the bottom, and the mill pit lake is the color of like a teal crayon, whereas like all the other bodies of water show up approximately this color in aerial imagery. And that's as a result of the high content of salts, metals, and dissolved solids. You know, just the overall content of the lake is a slurry of tailings. And they've been filling this entire basin with their tailings from the beginning, using this old pit lake as a tailings waste disposal facility. And they've now announced that moving forward, this was in the fall. I want to point out this is what the mining company mine site supervisor said, that Eagle Mine says it's almost like being a steward of the resource. It's almost like being a steward of the resource. We do it the right way, take care of our people. Who better to get the nickel than us, and just maximize everything we can. So now they're looking very seriously at paste backfill, which is their ore. All of the waste material goes into this body of water, and it's getting more and more full with tailings coming up from the bottom. So now they're saying that they may consider dewatering the tailing material into a filter cake, almost like a sand type product, and then hauling that back up to the mine. So it'd be like sand, except with a lot of sulfides in it, so that, you know, it would be reactive and could cause acid mine drainage. And so now they're doing technical work for putting that in there. We really need to find all the environmental considerations that would support a permit to do that. They think they could just put it in the trucks and haul it back up and put it underground. So what that tells me is that they want to keep the Humboldt mill going longer for some other purpose, possibly for a different mine, to reuse the same facility because they already have the milling set up there. Also, and this is a bonus one I threw in for you, this is their partner in this project, Revex, which is located up in the Keweenaw. It is a Michigan Tech Smart Zone grant winner. And Revex is planning something much bigger than just helping Eagle Mine dredge up their tailings. They are planning the first Michigan-based mine tailing reclamation facility and lithium-ion battery recovery plant. There's zero information about any permits from them, even though Eagle Mine says that they're going to be doing this potentially next year. But what they're talking about is black mass. And they also have received funding through Argonne National Laboratory to do black mass. That is shredding our battery materials, all of our green batteries, all the lithium ion batteries, all of the nickel cadmium batteries, trying to recover that. So that involves shredding it, getting plastic and a variety of metals and the catalysts all together, and then trying to process it. There are only two ways to process it right now, unless they've come up with a third method. One of them would involve leaching the materials out, and the other method would involve smelting it to get the plastic especially out of there. So I'm really hopeful that we don't end up with a smelter, but that's one thing that we have to be very watchful of. Michigan has a long history, the UP, with smelting, and it has caused a lot of environmental problems. Smelting is difficult to do safely. So one or the other, smelting or leaching, this is what Revex is talking about. They want to recover the metals from battery waste and mine tailings to make more batteries. And they have deep pockets. They have received Department of Energy grants, just like with the Copperwood mine. Getting grants before you have any permits or explanation of anything you're doing sort of puts the cart before the horse, but it makes it very difficult for the community to resist the project or offer concerns about it because they're already getting, you know, federal funding. They have Silicon Valley tech funders and connections to Silicon Valley industries. Just about running out there. Okay. Another project that I've been watching is Bitterroot, and I'm just going to share this with you so you know about this. Keep your eyes out for all of the language that each mine is one by one kind of redoing their branding to say that they're doing metals for a cleaner electric future. You know, clearly the electric energy, electrify anything, everything economy is requiring new metals, but Michigan's resources are being targeted right now by a Heinz 57 variety of companies, most of which are not based in the United States. And most of which have clients that are not in the United States to take those metals. Their contracts would be with Canadian and international companies to receive the metals that would come from the UP. So nickel, copper, platinum, and palladium is what Bitterroot is after, and they're looking very actively in Baraga County on the Ravine River, very close to the new Slate River Forest Preserve that was created. Kind of, you know, Skaney area, if you know that part of the world. They have a target that they compare, everybody compares everything to the Eagle Mine deposit. So they are drilling actively in that area, have been for like the last 4 years. And that's an example of their ore body core sample with volcanic massive sulfide deposit. They had an entire portfolio that was extremely large in Keweenaw, and I don't know how far south it went, but directly south of the Keweenaw, they had lands that they called the Voyager lands. Many of you may have heard of those in the past. Now they've sold that to Perseverance Mining as of last year. They did an agreement with Altius and Bitterroot to acquire the Voyager land. So Perseverance is based in British Columbia, and the Voyager land package is 250 square miles. That's roughly the shape of it right here. For those of you who know this area, Echo Lake intrusion is their biggest target. But there's also haystack intrusions and the bluff within there, that those may not be, this is a checkerboard of mineral rights, so they may not be in their portfolio, but within their area for sure. And then this is where the Loosemore intrusion is over in Skaney. And then they're also talking about comparing it to the Bovine Igneous Complex, which is in Lance, just south of Lance there, the Bovine area. And so we have to keep an eye on them because they have a lot more financial funders. They have a lot of big partnerships, including with Teck Resources, one of the biggest mining companies in North America. Teck is interested in their work, and so the Voyager property, they are trying to define nickel, copper, and platinum group elements, mafic intrusions in the Echo Lake area. And then the last one here that is working in the same area is Talon Metals. Talon Metals acquired the historic Ford mineral rights package, which is a big checkerboard we've been talking about from, you know, the early 2000s. So they got the historic Ford package from Rio Tinto Kennecott. Kennecott sold it to UPX, which then couldn't keep it, probably financially defaulted, and UPX sold it, passed it to Sweetwater Royalties, which then passed it to Talon Metals. And Talon Metals has filed a, I'll just share, this is the shape of the work area that they say they're exploring this year. And so that's quite a large area. They have opened an office in Lance, and it isn't clear what kind of exploration they have capacity to do, because they only have 6 drill rigs right now over in Minnesota, all at their Tamarack site. So they may be working with a subcontractor. If anybody is aware of anything that they're working on, please let us know. We get a lot of, people just reporting the exploration that they see, and that helps us a lot. Talon Metals is now interested in and appears to control a well-known, well-described small VMS deposit in Baraga County, the Bovine Igneous Complex. And that is adjacent to, if not on, the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community border. So basically, all of this is telling us that we have a land rush for minerals happening right now in the UP. And Keweenaw Land Association is a piece of this. Many of you have probably known this name for a long time because they've been here for forever. They control a lot of minerals, and they previously owned all of the land as well. So they had, like 450,000 acres of forest lands. As of 2021, end of 2021, they sold every bit of their timberland assets, liquidated everything to focus on their mineral assets, and overnight became a, quote, mineral exploration company on their corporate profiles. They have 2 full-time employees, one of which is the CEO and one of which is the secretary. And they have no income stream other than mineral rights royalties. And they own the Copperwood mineral rights on the Copperwood project, and minerals that go underneath the Porkies as well. So they're a strange one to have 500,000 acres of severed mineral rights and still be interested in more. So they are targeting for they have some minerals in this area, but then they keep applying for more from the state of Michigan of public minerals. Their targets include the volcanic massive sulfide deposits, platinum group elements, rare earth minerals, manganese, and the old Grotenwohl mine area, which includes a lot of mine waste spoils. So this is the topography here. You can see the old Grotenwohl mine near Ranville and Felch. If those of you who know this, heading towards Iron Mountain, Segola. So basically, there's a trough in here that's called the Felch Trough that geologists believe may be hiding a VMS Archean rock deposit in there. And I'm pretty sure that that's what Keweenaw Land Association is after. They have leased more than 10,000 acres of state-owned mineral rights since 2021. And this year they requested another 10,000 acres. And again, this is a company with 2 employees who are not out in the field exploring anything. They are just trying to control minerals for the coming land rush of metals and the new interest in these metals for technologies. I feel that this is a bad trend that we need to be aware of. These, especially with the state-owned minerals. The state of Michigan leases land through the DNR, leases the minerals out to companies like this. For $3 an acre, you can control these minerals for 10-year, 20-year lease. They don't have to prove them up. They don't have to explore them. They don't have to find anything. They don't have to drill. They're just controlling them. And so that does not meet the DNR's mission to protect these resources for the current and future generations. The same way they would have to protect, our natural resources like our forests and our natural resources, including, fish and other animals. they're leasing everything that the companies request, and the companies are self-nominating to receive these. So they're not doing it in a competitive manner, and the state taxpayer is not going to benefit from it. What I recommend to everyone is to take a stand as a steward, as an environmental steward. Be ready to take some action. And it's complicated what action that needs to be, but I wanted to share this quote from Wendell Berry. He talks about if we don't think about this properly, our places, our beloved land ends up becoming a resource colony. And so his line is, the message is plain enough, and we have ignored it for too long. The great centralized economic entities of our time do not come into rural places in order to improve them by creating jobs. They come to take as much of value as they can, as cheaply and quickly as they can take it. They are interested in job creation just so long as the jobs can be done more cheaply by humans than machines. And they're not interested in the good health, economic or natural or human, of any place on this earth. So that's Wendell Berry, who is a wonderful spiritual and poetic and philosophical hero of mine, reminding us about this. If you want to get involved, if you are somebody who enjoys reading technical things, technical reports, or are a good writer, you can reach out to us and join a team that reviews permits. Proposed permits and mine-related files are all online in the state's MyEnviro system. We have another unique opportunity. If you are someone financial minded and you want to put your money where your mouth is, become a dissident shareholder, sleuth some corporate reports. You can buy gold resources and Highland copper for a whopping less than 50 cents. Bitterroot Resources is $7, 7 cents. Lundin is 11. Keweenaw Land is 28 right now, which is just because of their pure play approach to finding a big mineral find. And then Cleveland Cliffs is $17. For less than $100, you could own all of these companies and keep a very close eye on what they're doing and report back. We also need people to speak out at public hearings as environmental stewards. It only takes 2 to 3 minutes. That's how limited our comment time is. And the good thing is they've moved almost all of the public hearings online since the pandemic. So that's good and bad, but at least there's no reason that people can't participate if you feel called to do that as a steward. And also resist industry plans and government initiatives that view the Western UP as a resource colony. A resource colony is a place that just serves the needs, demands of industry and consumers elsewhere without the right to plan and design and steer its own future. Resource colonies don't end up very well globally, we know historically. So if you want to get involved more, feel free to join us. Again, it's the Upper Peninsula Environmental Coalition, and I work with the Mining Action Group, which is just a little sub-team within. And thank you so much for all of your care and attention to the environment, and for recognizing the connections between the spiritual and the environmental issues of our time. So thank you. Oh, Joan, I think you are muted still too.